Hare Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Prema ki bajayo, Kiva Jayo Jayo Gora Chande Arati Kasho Kiva Jayo Jayo Gora Chandre Arati Kashoba Jayo Jayo Gaura Chandre Arati Kashoba Jana Vitata Vane Jaga manalo bhana vitanane kamanalo bhaja na vitatavane jaga manalo bhana Dakhin Nitai Chan Bame Gadadaran Dakhin Nitai Chan Bame Gadadaran Tae Chan Bame Gadadhara Dakhi Nene Tae Chan Bame Gadadhara Nikate Advaita Srini Vasa Chatradhara Nikate Advaita Srini Vasa Chatradhara Nikate Advaita Srini Vasa Chatradhara Nikate Advaita Srini Bosi Ache Gaurachan Ratna Se Masane Ache Gaurachan Ratna Se Masane Bosi Ache Gaurachan Ratna Se Masane Bosi Ache Gaurachan Ratna Se Masane Arati Kore Na Brahma Adi Deva Gane Arati Kore Arati Kore na Brahma Adi Deva Gane Narari Adi Kori Chamara Dolaya Hari Adi Kori Narari Adi Kori Chamara Dolaya Narari Adi Kori Chamara Dolaya Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Goshadigaya Sanjaya Mukunda Goshadigaya Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Goshadigaya Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Shankha baje ghanta baje baje karatala baje ghanta baje baje karata shankha baje ghanta baje baje karatala shankha Madhura mridanga baje Paramarasala Madhura La Madhura mridanga baje Paramarasala Madhura mridanga La Shankha baje Ghanta baje Madhur 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 baje बाजे शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 Madhur 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 baje Madhur Madhur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol बाहु कोटि चंद्रजिनी वदन ज्वाला चंद्रजिनी बाहु कोटि चंद्रजिनी वदन ज्वाला कोटि चंद्रजिनी गाला देश बनमाला करे जलमाला गाला देश बनमाला करे जलमाला गाला देश बनमाला सेवा सुख नारदा प्रेमे गादा गादा प्रेमे गादा सेवा सुख नारदा प्रेमे गादा गादा सुख नारदा प्रेमे गादा गादा भक्ति विनोदा देखे गौरारा संपादा भक्ति विनोदा देखे गौरारा संपादा भक्ति विनोदा देखे गौरारा संपादा जायो जायो गौरा चंद्रे आरती को शोभा गौरा चंद्रे आरती को के बाजायो जायो गौरा चंद्रे आरती को शोभा शोभा जाना वितातावाने जागा मनलो जागा मनलो जाना वितातावाने जागा मनलो गौरांगे आरती शोभा जग जन मानलोभा गौरांगे आरती शोभा जग जन मानलोभा Manaloba jaga jana manaloba jaga jana manaloba Hari bol Hari bol Hari bol Nitya Gaura Hari bol Nitya Gaura Hari bol Hari bol Hari bol Nitya Gaura Hari bol Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Jayo Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Sri Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman Jayo Gauranitai 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 Jayo Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Vishnupad Paramamsa Paradvara Chakacharya Stutat Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramamsa Paradvara
Namaste Jai Jagdisha Hare, Jai Jagdisha Hare, Jai Jagdisha Hare. Keshavadrita Narari Rupa, Jai Jagdisha Hare, Jai Jagdisha Hare, Jai Jagdisha Hare. Jaya Nishingadev, Jaya Nishingadev, Jaya Nishingadev, Jaya Nishingadev, 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 Jaya Nishingadev, Jaya Nishingadev, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Nishingadev, 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 Jaya Jaya Nishingadev, Nishingadev भगवान की, प्रहलाद महाराज की, शिला प्रभुपाद की.
Hare Krishna. Oh, I see, I see. Jai. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava. Gopijana Vallabha, Jaya Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Yashodanandana Jaya Prajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna, welcome to Bhagavad Gita class, the ISKCON sandwich, as Prabhupada said. So we're reading today from chapter 2, text 26. And Krishna is just describing the philosophy of the soul, and now he's coming to a bit of a kind of giving some counter arguments to destroy all of Arjuna's doubts. So we'll go through the Sanskrit first, and then you can repeat. Atha chainam nitya jatam. Please repeat. Atha chainam nitya jatam. Nityam va manyase mritam. Tatapi tvam mahabaho. Nainam shochitam ahasi. Atha chainam nitya jatam. Nityam va manyase mritam. Tatapi tvam mahabaho. Nainam shochitam ahasi. Please repeat. Atha chainam nityadatyam. Nityam va manyase mritam. Tatapi tvam mahabaho. Nainam shochitam arhasi. Atha chainam nityajatam. Nityam va manyase mritam. Tatapi tvam mahabaho. Nainam shochitam arhasi. Atha chainam nityajatam. Nityam va manyase mritam. Tatapi tvam mahabaho. Nainam shochitam arhasi. Word by word. Atha, if, however, if however. Cha, also. Enam, this soul. Nitya jatam, always born. Nityam, forever. Va, either. Manyase, so you think. You so think, sorry. Mritam, dead. Tata api, still. Tvam, you. Mahabaho, O mighty armed one. Na, never. Enam, about the soul. Shochitam, to lament. Arhasi, deserve. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. Purport. There is always a class of philosophers almost akin to the Buddhists who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, it appears that such philosophers existed, and they were known as the Lokayitakas and Vaibhashikas. Such philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at a certain mature condition of material combination. The modern material scientists and material philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage, the life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Currently, many pseudo-religions, now becoming fashionable in America, are also adhering to this philosophy, as are the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhashika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments for the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. According to the Vaibhashika philosophy, the so-called soul or Atma vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul or he did not believe in the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter at every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished every moment, there is no need to grieve for such incidents. If there were no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing and his grandfather and teacher. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabahu, or mighty-armed, because he, at least, did not accept the theory of the Vaibhashikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarunvyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna, requesting your blessings so that I may speak something of use and something for my own purification. So in this chapter, coming up these previous verses, Krishna is talking about the eternality of the soul. He's giving the philosophy of we're not the body, we're the soul, so therefore you should fight. And now he's kind of taking a different approach, a different tactic. He's described to Arjuna that we're not this body, we're the soul. But in case you're not convinced, even if you believe the opposite, so he's saying even if you believe that we're not this soul, we're just a bunch of chemicals, then you still don't have reason to disagree. So it's actually a genius tactic. Krishna explains the right philosophy, and then he takes the opposing philosophy, and he also explains that, and kind of defeats Arjuna. with something completely opposite as well. So he had no argument basically. So Krishna is kind of covering all angles. And so I was kind of thinking how this is kind of the theme I wanted to take for this class, is how Krishna covers all angles in our life, and how preachers also use many different angles to bring people to the right conclusion, and how it's not wrong. Sometimes people get like bridge preaching or something, people get a bit disturbed by it, but even Krishna is doing the same thing, right? He's using a different philosophy to bring Arjuna to the right conclusion. So, and this is the philosophy of the acharyas, that yukta vairagya, we use anything to bring the people to the right conclusion. And so Krishna covers all angles. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam, like we were hearing from, I think it was Sutapa the other day in class, he was saying that's why Srimad Bhagavatam has 12 cantos, not just the 10th canto, which is the conclusion, pure devotional service. But Krishna gives us everything so that we don't have any excuses. So if we want to know about science, we go to the 5th canto. If we want to know about what's going to happen in the future, we go to the 12th canto. So Krishna is covering all angles, so we can't kind of make excuses. And that's why he doesn't finish with the 10th canto as well, because we need some more convincing afterwards. He gives the Uddhava Gita, and then he gives us talks all about how bad Kali Yuga is, to kind of give us some motivation. Okay, now let's take to this 10th canto. So on one side, Krishna is saying that, and Prabhupada is explaining in the purport, if they are eternal souls, if we are eternal, then Arjuna should fight, he should do his duty, because it doesn't matter if you can't kill an eternal soul. And then on the other side, Krishna is saying that if no soul exists, if we are just a bunch of chemicals, then you should still fight, because then what's wrong with killing a bunch of chemicals? There's nothing. You won't get any reaction for that. So the philosophy that he's describing is a strain of philosophy that believes that life comes from chemicals. It's kind of what we were taught in school, most of us, the Big Bang Theory. And actually there's no scientific basis to this theory. It's just a theory, like they say. And there's very little philosophical sense. And I was thinking it's very dangerous, actually. They're teaching this kind of theory to children, and it kind of, it gives the opportunity that we don't have to take any responsibility. You know, like the whole YOLO thing, and you only live once. So it's actually very dangerous to teach children this kind of philosophy, that we're just chemicals, and in the end everything goes back to chemicals, because it gives them the idea that, okay, so I don't have any responsibilities in this life, I can just live how I want, there's no reaction, and they don't have any accountability or responsibility in their lives, and that's kind of bred into them from a child, and that's why we see there's so much disturbance, you know. And it was actually my physics teacher that made me first think of reincarnation as a concept. When I was a little bit younger, I was in physics class, and they teach this equation, right? They say that one of the equations is that energy, maybe you can help me out here, energy can never be destroyed or created, it can only be transferred, to another form. So I thought that was very interesting. I'm pretty sure she was an atheist, but it got me thinking, like, okay, so if it can't be destroyed or transformed, then surely we're also energy in some sense. The soul is also energy, so that must apply for us also. So this actually was my physics teacher that kind of got me thinking first about these kind of things. It's quite interesting. And the reason people teach this philosophy is because it's so attractive to us. Because generally we're fed up with people, you know. We're fed up with relationships. We've been fried out by authority, and so this philosophy of chemicals and nothingness and Mayavad is so attractive for us, because it's like, oh, phew, I don't have to deal with that anymore. That's even why Buddhism and things are so attractive for people, because if someone gets told that I have to engage in more relationships, God is a person I have to engage in a relationship with them. They're so fried out with their relationships in their life, their material relationships. It's like, I don't want more relationships. Don't tell me that God is a person I have to have another relationship. I just want peace. I want to be away from people. And that's why people find these theories and these kind of different views, different practices so attractive, because they want peace. They want to be freed from this relationships, and it's very dangerous. So I was thinking we could kind of look at how, like I said, how Krishna covers all angles, and how after Krishna left the planet, then it was also said, that verse in Bhagavatam, that when Krishna left, Dharma also left, which is kind of interesting, because Krishna came to establish Dharma, and then as soon as he leaves, Dharma leaves. But then the same verse also says that, but he left the scriptures, the Vedas, the Bhagavatam. But I thought we could go through the different ways that coming up to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the philosophy was reintroduced by different personalities after Krishna left. So we'll just go through these personalities. So after Krishna left, Dharma left, and people were still practicing spiritual life, but it was becoming more ritualistic. They say that if you have spirit and ritual, that's spirituality, but if you take away the spirit in the ritual, then it just becomes ritual. And so it was becoming very ritualistic practice. And so this is because Kali Yuga was entering. And so the main thing that was happening was people were misusing the Vedas. They were starting to do these sacrifices, these animal sacrifices, and they were sacrificing animals and then they were eating the flesh. So this kind of sacrifice was being abused. They were using this as an excuse to indulge in violence, in meat eating. And violence to animals kind of leads to violence in the world. We all know that. If you're violent in your heart, then you can't understand any higher truths. So Krishna saw this and he appeared as Buddha. And so Buddha was the first. After Krishna left, Buddha was the first person to come, and he saw that the whole world was kind of abusing this Vedic, they were abusing the Vedas, they were abusing this Vedic system to satisfy their tongue, to satisfy their senses. So Buddha appeared and he said, reject the Vedas completely. He said, he taught Shunyavad, and Shunya means nothing, and Vad means philosophy. So literally he taught the philosophy of nothingness. He said, reject the Vedas, because because obviously Krishna, he is Krishna himself. We hear in the Avatar's song that he is an incarnation of the Lord. But because he saw that everyone was abusing the Vedas, like if you have a house, often it's a very dilapidated house. Sometimes it's easier just to knock the whole house down rather than try to repair it, and then in a few years' time it breaks again, you have to repair like this. So Buddha thought the same. He saw that everyone was abusing the Vedas, so he decided, okay, let's just knock the house down. Let's start afresh. So the main principle he taught was ahimsa, non-violence. But he had to reject the Vedas because everyone was abusing it. So then this was the prevalent philosophy. It was impersonal, but it was mainly revolving around non-violence, on not killing animals. So then this was in 500 BC, roughly. So then the next person that came was Shankaracharya. He came in 700 AD, and he was a very amazing personality. At 8 years old, he took sannyas. He was and we know from the Bhagavatam that he's an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Comes to propound this Mayavad philosophy. So he came in 700 AD, and he took it to the next level. So he developed on what Buddha taught, and he actually re-established the Vedas. He re-established the Vedic conclusion, but he had an impersonal conclusion. He was teaching Advaita philosophy, which means non-dualism or oneness. So he was a Mayavadi basically, but at least he took it to the next level. Now, so people were rejecting the Vedas. Now he brought the Vedas back in. So he's bringing people back to the Vedas, but it was an impersonal conclusion, so the wrong conclusion.
There was a purpose. He had two purposes for this. One was to introduce the Vedas.
Mm.
Other one was to rule the demons.
Lord of the demons. Yeah.
Because people were coming in the guise of Vaishnavas to misguide the Vaishnavas.
Mm.
So he introduced the Vedas and gave Maya to rule the
Mm.
demons.
Thank you. Oh, okay, so Srinivas was just saying that he had two purposes. The first, like we discussed, was to reintroduce the Vedas, and the second purpose was to bewilder the demons, because many Vaishnavas were kind of introducing wrong philosophy. Okay, yeah, people were disturbing coming in the guise of Vaishnavas, gave it the wrong philosophy, and he stopped that, cut that off. Gave them Mayavad, yeah. So then after Shankaracharya gave this philosophy of Mayavad, then in 1000 AD Ramanujacharya came, and he taught a philosophy called Vishishta Advaita, qualified monism, which means qualified monism. So he took it to the next level again. So now the Vedas are back in, and then he brought it to a more devotional, a more personal philosophy. He said the ultimate reality is one, but there is some difference. There is some difference between God and the soul. There is some difference between nature and us. So he didn't bring it fully to personalism yet, but he brought it more personal and established this difference, this Advaita. So then after Ramanujacharya came, 200 years later in 1200 AD, Madhvacharya, he came, and then he gave the philosophy of Dvaita Vedanta, which is pure dualism. So he took it one more level up, and he emphasized the difference between the soul and God, and the differences between, basically, Dvaita Vedanta, pure dualism, basically everything is different. So this was his main point, was everything is different, we're all individual, we're all different. Right, so then finally, in 1500 AD, as we all know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and what philosophy did he teach? Chintya Veda Veda Tattva, which means simultaneous one and difference. So he actually took all of these and he synthesized the teachings to kind of synthesize that we're simultaneously one and different. So in conclusion, just to go through those personalities again, what did Buddha teach? What was his main teaching? Non-violence, ahimsa. And he denied the Vedas. And then Shankaracharya came, and what did he teach? What was his main kind of purpose? To re-establish the Vedas. But he denied the difference between God and the living entity. He said we're all one. He gave a impersonal conclusion. And then Ramanuja came, and what did he do? Ramanujacharya. Yeah, so he came and he re-established personalism, and he identified the difference between us and God. He said we're different, the soul is different, Jiva is different from God. Then Madhvacharya came and he just expanded on that understanding of Ramanujacharya. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he kind of harmonized all of these philosophies and gave us the ultimate philosophy of Achintya Veda Veda Tattva.
He says that these all the four acharyas, they get four children actually
Two principles from each of the four main acharyas. Yeah.
Madhvacharya, he taught the deity of Mayavad philosophy and Ramanujacharya taught the principle of
I'll just repeat it if you say so. Madhvacharya he took
the principle of
defeating
defeating Mayavad philosophy
Mayavad philosophy
and deity worship.
and deity worship. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took those two principles. Then Ramanujacharya he
He taught the principle of serving Vaishnavas and devotional service.
okay. So Ramanujacharya taught serving Vaishnavas and devotional service. And then the other four.
It's in what is given in Bhaktivedanta Manor book.
Mhm.
Now
So we can do our own research on. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu basically took 2 points from each of the 4 sampradayas, and he harmonized all of these 4. And so I was kind of thinking it's nice how Krishna covers all angles for us. He's not giving us any excuses. And actually when you look all in incarnations, they do the same thing. So these different people came, they gave different philosophies, but so that we don't have an excuse. So Buddha came and everyone came to give us certain angles so that we can come to the conclusion that this is the highest what we've been given. And even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did the same. In his early life, he was he was the biggest philosopher, he was the biggest Pandit scholar, and he was world renowned. And then he gave it all up completely to show us, to teach us that scholarship alone is not the highest, even though he defeated he was the best. And so he did that for a reason, to show us that. And then he went to devotion after scholarship. So he showed us that scholarship alone is not the best. Devotion is. And so yeah, Krishna is very kind. He's covering all aspects for us to bring us to this conclusion. Yet still we're ignoring him, or at least I'm. But yeah, it's very, very amazing how everything is covered. Krishna in the Gita, he covers everything. And this was the main point of this verse, was that Krishna is actually using a different philosophy to convince Arjuna of the point that he should come to surrender, to fight. And yeah, that was the kind of summary of my class. If there's any questions, comments, then please, yeah.
Thank you for the class, bro. So Shankaracharya is Lord Shiva, a pure devotee of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So how come he's teaching Mayavad philosophy? Was it just because that was his purpose? That's what he had to do at the time. That was what was needed.
Yeah, you're right. That was because he saw that the whole world was. They couldn't at that point. They couldn't come to the point of personalism. They completely rejected the Vedas. Now he has to bring them to the next step. He can't give them straight personalism because they're not ready there. Everyone's rejecting the Vedas. Because they're following the teachings of Buddha. So he had to bring them to the next level. He couldn't bring them straight away to pure devotion.
But even with the piety of pure devotee, that's still what
Yeah, I mean, even we see Krishna in the Gita, he brings people to different, he doesn't straight away go to pure devotion, isn't it? He says, do this, and then if you can't do that, then do this, and if you can't do that, do this. But the best thing you can do is surrender to me. But he doesn't go straight from he says first, yeah, if you can't do these, do this. So even Krishna's doing the same thing, bringing people from where they're at, bringing them up a little bit to the next level, because not everyone is ready for pure devotion. Please, yeah.
Even he was preaching, Shankaracharya, he had enemies who tried to kill him.
Mm.
So he took shelter on Nrsingadev. This shows that even these big preachers, it's not easy to come in a certain situation and but he had 2 purposes, to bewilder the demons and save the devotees. So Prabhupada says in his purports in the Bhagavad Gita that this world is a world of enemies.
Mm.
Do your business and get out, don't hang around. So even, I don't know how long Shankaracharya lived for, he didn't live for that long.
Yeah, I don't know much about
He didn't
him.
live for so long.
But he also, in some of his writings, he also expresses that devotional attitude, right? In subtly he says Govinda is the supreme. So, and he has that glorification of the Gita, right? The Gita Mahatmya. That's Shankaracharya, I think. Yes, Prabhu. Mm.
is that in argumentation, the point that is sometimes done is you answer the questions that others might put
Mm.
so that they are cornered. And
Yeah.
so Krishna is doing,
He's doing that, yeah.
He's already predicting, like in chess, what Arjuna might
Yeah.
argument with. So he's giving the answers.
Yeah.
Penalty.
No
And
excuses.
it reminds me a story. In India, there was a separation of Radha and Krishna. I think it was in Jaipur. They took Radha out of the altar because the sculptor Radha has no right to be Govindati. And so Baladev and Krishna was sent there to argumentate with the pujaris.
Mm.
And so they cornered him because they said, so all authentic sampradayas, they discuss upon the comments. So which comments you're going to discuss upon? Because they knew they were cornering him. He was going to discuss on Madhavacharya's comment on Bhagavatam. And they knew that in Bhagavatam, he didn't spoke about Radharani. So he was immediately blocked and he left the room. And this is how later Govinda came in his dream.
Yeah, he spoke the commentary to him, isn't it?
So also there they cornered him because they knew Radha was
Mm. Yeah, thank you. And you can actually see in this through the whole of the chapter, Krishna is doing exactly what you're saying. He's taking all the arguments that that Arjuna might have, and he's kind of defeating them one by one. So genius, obviously the best. Okay, so we're coming to 8:15. Unless there's any other questions or comments, we can finish there. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai. Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai.